Monday morning arrived with the kind of cold clarity that autumn mornings carry in the city. Layla walked into the all-hands meeting on the 14th floor at 5 minutes to 9, coffee in hand, every wall back in place. Her department head stood at the front of the room and introduced the company's new chief executive officer, recently appointed by the board after 18 months of quiet restructuring. He said that Daniel Ashford had spent the last year embedded across every level of the company, operations, facilities, client services, learning the organization from the inside out before accepting the position. It was, her department head said, the most thorough onboarding any leader had ever undertaken at Callaway & Penn. The door opened. And Layla's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. He wore a charcoal suit now, and his hands were clean. But the calm was exactly the same. The stillness. The unhurried dark eyes that moved across the room and found her with something that was not quite a smile and not quite an apology, but something quietly between the two. He had known who she was on Friday. He had known which floor she worked on, what her name meant in this building. And he had sat with her on the floor of a stalled elevator and let her talk about her mother and her exhaustion and her fear, without once using any of it to arrange himself above her. He had simply been present. He had simply listened. She felt something crack open in her chest, slow and irreversible, like ice in early spring. In the weeks that followed, Daniel Ashford built a culture inside Callaway & Penn that no one had seen before in that industry, one where humility was not a weakness and where the distance between a title and a person was treated as something to be measured and reduced. He remembered every name on every floor. He remembered hers. And Layla Mercer, who had spent 10 years perfecting her walls, began, slowly and with great difficulty and with something that felt like relief, to let them down. Before you go, drop a comment and tell us, have you ever misjudged someone because of how they looked or what they were wearing? We read every single one. Some people enter our lives in service uniforms with grease on their hands and wisdom in their eyes, and they teach us, without a single lecture, that dignity belongs to no title, kindness carries no rank, and the truest measure of a person is never found in what they wear, but in how they make you feel when the doors close and no one else is watching. If this story moved something in you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because every soul deserves a story that reminds them, people are almost always more than they first appear. She realized somewhere between his words and the soft city silence that she had not thought about Richard Harmon or her father's gala or the engagement announcement still folded in her jacket pocket for the last 2 hours. She had not thought about the empire or the expectation or the carefully arranged future that awaited her inside. She had only thought about this man, this quiet, grease-stained, butterfly keychain-wearing man who had walked into a room full of chandeliers and never once pretended to be anything other than exactly who he was. She tried to hand him the $100 one more time when they said goodbye, and he smiled for the first time all evening, a real smile, slow and warm and slightly crooked, and shook his head. He said that kindness wasn't something he charged for. And then he went back to his car, which he had somehow fixed in the brief time they were inside, and he drove away into the misted city night, and Maya stood on the wet pavement in her white suit and felt something rearrange itself permanently inside her chest. If this story moved something in you, if it reminded you that real love doesn't announce itself with grand gestures but with quiet presence, with someone who shows up and stays, please like this video, share it with someone you love, and let us know in the comments what this story meant to you. Your engagement helps Kindness Corner reach more hearts that need these stories. Before we reach the end, we want to ask you something. Drop a butterfly in the comments right now if you believe the right people find each other exactly when they're supposed to. Maya did not marry Richard Harmon. She told her father that same night, standing in the emptying ballroom, that she would rather build her own life than inherit one that wasn't hers. It took courage she had been storing up for years. And 3 weeks later, on a quiet Tuesday morning, she drove back to the part of the city where Daniel worked, walked through the garage door with 2 coffees and a butterfly keychain she had bought from a street vendor, and asked him if she could buy him lunch. Not as a transaction. Not as a performance. Just as herself, uncertain and hopeful and finally free. He said yes. She thought he was the maintenance guy, until he became her CEO on Monday. The elevator doors slid shut, and in that small, steel box suspended between floors, two lives collided in a way neither of them would ever forget. She didn't know it yet, couldn't have known, that the man crouching beside the open panel of wires and circuits, his hands darkened with grease, his navy uniform worn soft at the elbows, was about to change everything she thought she understood about people, about pride, and about the invisible walls we build between ourselves and the rest of the world. If you believe in kindness and second chances, you're in the right place. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, drop a comment below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every story we tell here is for you. Her name was Layla Mercer, and she had spent the better part of a decade building herself into someone no one could ignore. She wore confidence the way other women wore perfume, deliberately, precisely, never too much and never too little. She was 34 years old, the director of strategy at Callaway & Penn, a firm whose glass tower threw shadows over half the financial district. She carried a leather tote that cost more than some people's rent, and she walked through lobbies the way ships move through water, with quiet, unavoidable force. That Friday evening, she had stayed late again. The building was nearly empty, the cleaning crews moving silently through darkened corridors, and the elevator at the far end of the hall was the only one still running. She stepped inside without looking, already scrolling through her phone, already somewhere else in her mind, when she nearly tripped over the man kneeling on the floor beside the access panel. She steadied herself against the railing and looked down at him, and her first thought, a thought she would later be ashamed of, was irritation. She was tired. She wanted to go home. And here was a maintenance worker, blocking her exit from a day that had already taken too much from her.